If you're like me, you spent a lot of time over this past week asking yourselves how the events of last Wednesday could have happened and where the heck do we go from here? And I want to spend just a few minutes today lifting up two moments from the Gospels that offer us some concrete guidance, I think. First, we must be upfront about our responsibility to resist the evil that we saw on display last Wednesday. I think sometimes as Christians who want to be thought of as nice, as Christians who are relatively well-to-do, as Christians who might identify as liberal, we are a little shy about talking about our discipleship in terms of resistance. But the Gospels remind us that the very day after Jesus led his march into Jerusalem, he went inside the temple, and once he saw the abuse of power and the corruption that was on display there, Jesus got mad, and he drove out those money lenders. So likewise, we need to recognize those moments in our history where resistance is necessary. As the scholars Karen and Barbara Fields remind us, ultimately the only check upon oppression is the strength and effectiveness of resistance to it. So if we want to live in a world with less oppression, we need to make sure that we are doing our jobs to stand up and hold evildoers accountable. But as we resist, I think, we must also self-examine. In the Gospels, Jesus also talks about not pointing out the speck in our brother's eyes before we have located the logs in our own eyes. Now, in the case of conspiracy theories like QAnon, the logs in our brothers and sisters' eyes might seem sizable. And we're not called to sympathize with these insurrectionists. But we are called, I think, to try to understand what forces and past events might have led to a conspiracy like QAnon taking over thousands of people's lives. Over this last week, we've learned more about some of the people who died last Wednesday. We learned that Ashley Babbitt, the woman who was shot by Capitol Police when she was inside the building, actually voted for Barack Obama not too many years ago. We learned that the policeman Brian Sicknick, who was killed by the mob, was himself a Trump supporter and actually followed some QAnon sources on social media. These two people, one woman, one man, both young, died tragically, unnecessarily. They also shared one other thing in common. They were both military veterans. They had both devoted part of their early adulthoods to risking their lives as part of the forever wars in the Middle East that our country has undertaken as part of our response since September 11, 2001. These wars, of course, were almost universally supported by politicians of both parties, and they have been unmitigated disasters, wastes of time, money, human life. Is it any wonder that young people who would come away from their service in these wars disillusioned, seeking a different kind of meaning and susceptible to an extreme theory that would offer more of a purpose? And so it's not too far of a stretch to say that part of the responsibility for last Wednesday lies in all our hands, that there are logs still stuck in all our eyes. On Sunday, we're going to turn to some of the writings of Martin Luther King, in particular his late writings, where he's not only talking about racism, but he's talking about capitalism and militarism. And he will have many things to teach us as we seek where we can go from here. I hope you'll join us as we worship God this Sunday on King Sunday. Praise be to God. Amen.